What's going on, you all? Welcome back to the Prophletics Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Reese, Monitor Tubarao in the Prophletics Capoeira community, coming to bring you the next episode. Today's episode is actually inspired by one of my fighters who asked me a couple of interesting questions last week before we got into training. So I'll get into that in just a minute. Before I get started, you know what to do. You know the routine, right? Make sure you comment, like, share, subscribe. Mainly hit that subscribe button. And if you don't mind, turn on those notification bells, and the rest will be on me as I provide this high quality content and authentic content to you guys as much as I possibly can. I love doing it. So, like I was saying, one of my fighters asked me last week, he asked me how I got into training or how I got into this, which is a very, very long story, maybe interesting and hopefully inspiring to a couple of individuals. So I moved down here in Alabama in 2003. And about 2004, I met my boxing coach. I'll fast forward on to like 2007, 2008. I've been boxing with him for that long. So I was going to boxing class to, get my training on and everything. And there were other students around. And what happened was my coach would come super late. Like he had to work. It wasn't like he was just lollygagging or chilling, but he would be coming in the class very late or whatnot. And I was the most experienced in there. So everybody else kind of looked at me like, hey, you at least know the warm-ups. You can get us started and moving before he gets here. And me being me, I'm like, okay, only if y'all listen, if y'all listen, cool, we can rock with it and we can do it. So I kind of took on the leadership helm of going through the warm-up, which is a good idea for me to pass on to some of my students, because that would actually alleviate me. Great. Thank you. I appreciate it, Paul. But so I took on doing the warm-ups before my coach actually got there to actually do what he needed to do, which saved time. So we're doing the warm-ups, the side skips. If you're one of my students, you know exactly what a side skip is. So we're maybe like on the second set of side skips. And coach walks in. And I'm like, man. I had a feeling in my stomach like I shouldn't have did this because coach is about to destroy me. He looks at me. He looks at everybody in there doing side skips. He doesn't say a word. And just moves on about his business. Class continued on, and he took on, after we got done with the side skips and a few other warm-up drills, and he took over from there and kept going. Come the next day, coach comes even later. And I'm like, man, like coach running a little bit more later. So inadvertently, I became that guy to start running the warm-ups or whatnot, So that was pretty cool too. So fast forward to maybe a year after that, maybe even 6 months after that, I moved. So I moved to an area which was further away. Pretty nice distance from the gym where we were training at. I went to another gym and I just started working out there. I wasn't doing any boxing there because there were no boxing, utilities or no boxing tools there. So I'm in there working out and a few people over there knew me. And they were like, hey, do you mind teaching us boxing over here? And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I could teach you. I'm underground. I'm not certified yet or anything like that. I'm certified to fight, but I'm not certified to coach. But yeah, I'll do some mitt work and some other stuff with you. And this was at a gym called 24/7 out in Harvest, Alabama. They saw me on camera teaching some boxing or whatnot. And they offered me the opportunity to actually teach a class there. Like, hey, would you mind teaching a boxing class here? Because they had like Zumba and some other class or whatever, Zumba and cycling. So they had a Zumba class and a cycling class. So they wanted to utilize me to run a boxing class. Of course, I jumped on the opportunity. It's something I love to do. Their pay wasn't reflective of that though. And that's the thing about group classes. Like, depending on where you go, and this is a key thing for you trainers and aspiring trainers and group trainers, make sure that the numbers add up. The effort that you put in may not reflect the wages you get. So they were only paying like $15 per class. And of course, the boxing class was packed. It was something new, it's something interesting, it's something fun, it's something challenging. So the boxing class was loaded. So once the output, which was the monetary reflection that I was getting, wasn't matching the input, that's where we bumped heads. So I was like, I'm no longer interested in doing the boxing class over here. You know, the wages aren't adding up. It's really not worth my time. And I continued on, and they told me that I couldn't teach, you know, one-on-one boxing because I was no longer an asset to them. Okay, fine, respectable. I get it. No harm, no foul. I definitely, you know, understand, you know, your business practices or whatnot. So fast forward, I've been going from gym to 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 gym. And I ended up at a gym which is literally a quarter mile around the corner from me. I was doing boxing over there. By this time I'm certified, you know, and things of that nature. And, you know, I'll get to how that happened too. But I'm certified and things of that nature. And I'm teaching boxing over here at this gym across the street. I'm not going to say their names or his name, the owner's name, because I felt like it was like really messed up, the transition that happened. So this is what happened. I'm teaching boxing at this gym, and there's like a, you know, the circuit rooms or whatever the case may be, the offside rooms. So not on the gym floor where the treadmills and the weights and all that stuff is. And I'm over there in a room where I get my guys in there, you know, when I say guys, I'm talking male and female clients or whatever the case may be. But I get my guys, my crew together to go in this workout room. And I got to bring my own heavy bag in there. So he already had one heavy bag. I brought an extra heavy bag in there. We're in there getting it in, no problem, you know, no issues or anything. I come back one Monday, ready to work. I go in there, and there's straight powerlifting equipment in there. Like everything was like reorganized, redone. There was nowhere for me to work. Like you couldn't tell me, you couldn't let me know, because now I look stupid because I'm here with a bunch of clients and I don't have anywhere to work. So I got to take these guys either outside. Luckily it was warm outside, you know, spring, summers. So I've got to take these guys outside and spread them out across the weight room floor because you didn't let me know, even though it's your gym, you know, your rules, whatever the case may be, you could have respectfully let me know, like, hey, I'm going to be reorganizing this room. I've got some things going on. I might move you here. I might move you there. When I came back and saw that, it felt like I got booted out because where was I going to work? Were my heavy bags still in there? Or my heavy bag still in there? Yeah, but it's right next to a powerlifting bench. Like, he's a powerlifter. The guy who owns the gym is a powerlifter. So that's his niche. That's his thing, you know, whatever the case may be. However, man, you could have let me know, right? So now I'm feeling shitted on. Like, damn, what am I supposed to do? By this time, I'm like, man, I got to go find my own. Right around the corner, here I am, found a sign, boom. Now I'm teaching, now I've got my, well, now I'm teaching, I've been personal training before then, but now I'm here. This is how I got into this building. That's my how I got started training story. My client also asked me, you know, my fighter also asked me, so what was I doing before this? And this is an interesting story. So I told him that I was working at Boeing. And he asked me what I was doing at Boeing. I told him QA or whatnot. And he was like, oh, you were making the big money. No. The Kimby Mutombo finger. No. See, and what I'm about to tell you is something that may kill your illusion, and I hope it kills your illusion about working at certain places. These companies, and I've worked at multiple. I've worked at Boeing, I've contracted through Northrop Grumman. I've worked at Ulista. I've worked at like a lot of these, what people consider, because they look at the name outside, high-end, high-brand companies. Listen, these companies don't pay any more than any other company. All right? They don't pay any more than any other company. They're here in Huntsville, because Redstone Arsenal is here, there's this mantra around here that because you work in an arsenal, you make a lot of money. People make more money off the arsenal than they do on the arsenal. The bigger companies are the ones who actually rob your pockets more. So in all of these different companies that I went to, and I went to multiples, I went to multiple companies. The glitz and the glamour is on the outside to people who don't know what's on the inside. So when you drive by these companies and these buildings and these tall story buildings and everything with the nice name and the Boeing and the Northrop Grumman, it looks like, oh my God, that is a company that makes a lot of money. It is a company that makes a lot of money. But people think, oh, the employees must make a shit ton of money. The hell they do. Inside each one of those buildings is the same gutted shell. Every one of those buildings look the same, from Northrop to Boeing to Colsa to Ulista. It's the same BS on the inside on each and every one of them. None of them are any different, and the same politics in each and every one of them. Family looking after family. Take that how you want to. The same politics, the same drama. People who make the biggest money in those types of companies aren't at those type of companies. They're at the smaller companies. Because the bigger companies keep about 80%, maybe even more, of what you're actually getting paid. So people look at these companies or see you working at these companies and say, man, you must have all this money and all this change. No, the hell you don't. They don't have any more money than you have. You probably make more money than them. They just keep up the illusion and the allure of what it looks like to work on the arsenal or to work at such and such company. Not all of those people are making money like that. They're keeping up the allure with the fancy vehicles, which they really can't afford, and the big houses. And it's a facade. It's a facade. I would rather you go do what you're more passionate about than to subject yourself to a company that's not going to give you what you're worth, because you can make more working off the arsenal or pursuing your passion than you can working there. I remember when they gave me the offer letters, I'm like, damn, this is all? This is it? Ulista is a smaller company than Boeing, and Ulista paid me more up front, more than Boeing did. And Boeing is a way larger, worldwide company or whatnot. But anyway, those are the facades that are put forward in these companies. What I was doing before also had me hollow because I didn't feel anything. And this is a really big thing. I think this is why a lot of people are depressed. I think this is why a lot of people end up doing things to harm themselves, because they subject themselves to these companies, and these companies are not fulfilling to their creativity. When I was a QA, there was so much time that I could have been putting forth somewhere else. And I did, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But there was so much time that I could put forward going into something else that I felt like I was wasting my time and wasting my life. They only needed me out there on the floor to do a little bit of work every now and again. So out of 8 hours, I probably did an hour or so worth of work. So maybe 6+ hours, 6.5 hours of, man, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And people love to say how good it feels or how good or cool it would be to sit there on the clock and do nothing to make money. Listen, when you're a creative, which I am, and I know there are a lot of creatives out there, you value time more than you do money. You find out really quick that sitting around on the clock, not being creative, is torture. Even having something to do the entire day where you're not creating and you're not in control of it is also torture, because you're just following a script. You're following a program. That shit is torture. I'll tell you that right now. But the way that my mind works as a musician, a producer, an artist, a gym owner, somebody who is creative and has always been creative, that 6.5 to 7 hours, maybe even a full day of doing nothing, was absolute torture. Torture, torture, torture. So this is where things got a little interesting, because that was my last job before I started doing this full time. My wife had been an entrepreneur before I had been. So she knew that my time was ticking as far as being on the clock at this job, and that this was going to be my last job, because I got offered a job 2017 working at another gym, and they gave me a great opportunity. So they said, hey, why don't you come over here and do your thing? You can train over here and do what you want to do as an employee of ours. And I'm very, very, very grateful for the opportunity. So I told my wife about it, and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do full time. So her thing, of course, fear. Fear kicked in, because right now I'm married and I have 2 kids, so I have responsibilities. I didn't start my entrepreneurial journey full time risk-free. And risk-free, what I mean by risk-free is just me. I already had obligations. I had a mortgage, I had my wife, and I had a son, and I had a daughter. All this is weighing on me as far as stability. So she had every right to be nervous and have fear because of the lack of what appeared to be stability, because those jobs aren't really stability. Like I said, it's family protecting family. So I had been fired from job to job to job to job to job because of the politics, because the contract changes. And when the contract changes, you might have to reduce your employee force. So there is no such thing as job security, but she was still under the illusion of job security at this point in time. So she told me that when I start making just as much money or more on my personal training as I was at Boeing, check per check, month for month, she would have no debates. Guess what your boy did? Went to work. Me, I'm a real competitive guy. When you shoot a challenge at me, it's over with. You might as well get out the way. I see nothing else. Like, there's nothing you can do to stop me when it comes to you putting a challenge in my face and it's time to go. When it's go time, nothing else exists. Laser vision. So that's what I did. So I worked at Boeing. My scheduled time was 6 to 2:30, right? So what I started doing and what I started figuring out was, how was I going to make this money while I had a full-time job? Okay, so what I started doing was taking clients from 4 in the morning to 6 in the morning. I didn't mind getting to work late because I wasn't doing anything anyway. Nobody was ever looking for me, none of that. So I would train 4 to 6. So the clients were scheduled in half-hour segments. So I'd have a 4 o'clock client, a 4:30 client, a 5 o'clock client, and a 5:30 client. As soon as I got done with the 5:30 client, I'm shooting to work, which was only 10 minutes up the street or whatever the case may be, 10, 15 minutes up the street. During my lunch period, I sacrificed my lunch. We didn't even get an hour for lunch. Why we're talking about job security and how political this shit is. We didn't even get an hour for lunch. Our lunch period was from 11 to 11:30. Guess who was gonna take that hour? Me. Guess who was gonna leave a little early because nobody was ever looking for me. And I'd had 6.5 to 7 hours or maybe a full day of doing nothing. 10:40, boom, I'm out. That gives me time to go back to the gym to train an 11 o'clock client, an 11:30 client, come back 10 to 15 minutes later, after lunch is over with, which I would still be the first one back. So after that, I got out at 2:30. 2:30 gave me enough time to come home, pick up the kids, whatever the case may be, because my wife worked in the afternoons. Pick up the kids, get them some lunch, get them situated. I was back at the gym by 3:30, 4 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock. So from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, so that gave me 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, and then 6 to 7, I would actually teach an hour boxing class. And then after that, if I had the energy, I would take a 7 to 7:30 and take my tail back home. Hug the wife, kiss the babies, help with the homework, whatever the case may be, if there was any. Wash, rinse, repeat. How often was I sleeping? I don't know, barely ever. So this process took place from January 2017 all the way to June, or was it July? June 2017. So that was my schedule. Did I achieve the goal? Yep. Did I have any feedback? Nope. Couldn't, because I did what I was supposed to do. So I was out there putting in work. Also, during that time period of the January 2017 to June 2017, I had a lot of time, right? During work, even though I was still there. That's where I got my master training certification, because I'd already had my personal training certification. I needed that before I got hired on at the gym that I was working at that current time. So I sat there at work, during work, on my laptop. Boom, opened up the laptop, and they said, if you take these 3 extra certifications, you'll be considered a master trainer, which is your resistance training certification, endurance training certification, and sports nutrition certification. I did all those at work. So I got paid to do that. So that put me ahead of the crowd as far as being a general certified personal trainer to a master fitness trainer. And then I was a boxing coach as well. So I'm getting all these other skills while I'm on the clock. So that's how I got into where I'm at right now. It was a hard journey. It was a hard journey because you have to always fight people who are closest to you. Of course, me and my wife had plenty of fights, plenty of fallouts. My parents too. You know, my parents, they're from the generation of, what is that, retirements, and that all that shit is over with. You know, 401ks and all of that, like being your dependent situation. You're supposed to work hard until you're 60 and 65 and die. And then be bored and then not have a life outside of there. I saw so many people, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but this is all just, you know, related, and I want to share my experiences. I saw so many people retire from these companies and literally die within a week or two afterwards because of boredom. These people work themselves to death. When I hear somebody say, I work myself to death, they're not talking about working a day and then being crashed out at the end. I literally and physically saw people work themselves until they died. They don't retire because they know when they go home, they have no skills. They have no your creativity is killed at these jobs. You're told what to do, right? You're told this is your job. You're to operate within these confines. This is what you do. This is who you are. This is your identity. So they give you your life identity right there, because people don't know what to do outside of there. That's why they get so tied up in the drama and bullshit that they shouldn't be tied into, because that work is their life. Work life is their life. They have no identity outside of there. So, like I was saying, I saw people, like older people, who I knew good and damn well. I'm like, man, you should be out of here, retired, like living, doing something creative. They don't have any creativity. They don't draw. They don't read. They don't play music. They have nothing to do outside of work except for sit at home, sleep, watch TV, eat, sleep, wash, rinse, repeat. And they get their asses right back up and go back to work in the morning. And those are the people who are like chipper to go in there and do bullshit work, unfulfilling work. Creatives, individuals whose minds work like me, we walk in there like, man, how are you so happy, like thrilled, like you about to do the same, you about to put the same screw in the same freaking bolt in the same hole for the next 8 hours with a half-hour lunch and 2 15-minute breaks. Nothing fulfilling about that. But they don't have, all the creativity has been beat out of them. All the creativity has been beat out of them. And they just retire and die. I remember those phone calls we got up there like multiple times. I remember a lot of phone calls that we got up there multiple times because such and such had retired, went home and died. The ones who don't die, they come back and they double dip. They come back as contractors. So they get their retirement check from the company, you know, so they retire as, a Boeing employee or something, and then come back and work again under a contractor. So you're just working your whole damn life. Like no rewards, no nothing. That's because there's no creativity there. Nothing creative there. There's nothing for them to actually do, which takes me to my next point. My client also asked me, if I needed a degree to work there. I'm not degreed. I did not graduate from Central State University. I did not. The only thing that I was good at, well, I was great at math too, but the only study that had my interest since I was 10 years old was music. I played the piano, started playing the piano when I was 10 years old. I started playing the alto saxophone when I was 11 years old, the tenor saxophone when I was 14, a freshman in high school. And I dibbled and dabbled in other instruments while I was there, the tuba, the trombone, and found other instruments or whatever the case may be that piqued my interest. And any instrument that I picked up, I could play. It was one of those situations. So I was naturally gifted at music. Come my senior year in high school, I was told that I could not major in music when I went off to college, that music was not a real career, that I had to pick something more engineering based. And of course it came from my parents. And this is where generational curses and generational fear needs to stop, because I'm not upset at them at all. What happened, but they would not support me if I went to school and majored in music, which was the only thing that I was great at and passionate about and drove me and made me feel alive. It was the only thing that made me feel alive. They told me I couldn't do it, so I had a full ride academic scholarship. Went to Central State University, majored in manufacturing engineering, hated every bit of it. I had no interest in going to class. So sometimes, a lot of times, I wasn't. I hated everything about the curriculum except for what? Band. I hated all the rest of that stuff. I had no interest in any of it. The math was cool, science, bleh. I had no interest in science. Funny enough, the science of, physical fitness and everything, I'm all about that now, later in life. But anyway, I had no interest in what was going on at Central State University with the manufacturing engineering program. So eventually, after years of staying there, I flunked out. So no, I'm not a graduate. I am a college dropout. I even tried again going back to college when I came down here, and none of that stuff just interested me at all. I had to chase my passion. And this is where I'm at now. But that's my story as far as me getting into this fitness, me getting into this boxing coaching, me getting into, and Capoeira. Yeah, Capoeira, man, one of my new loves. Capoeira is super cool, man. Like it's one of the best martial arts out here. Boxing and Capoeira they're gonna go together so smooth, which you'll see a lot of the videos coming up. So this is how I got to the point where I have my own gym. I'll talk about the entrepreneurial side of that later on, because everybody says they want to be an entrepreneur, and a lot of you don't have the emotional tact to be an entrepreneur. And there are disciplines that you don't have to be an entrepreneur. And I'll get into all of that, because everybody wants to be on their Dame Dash, I'm a boss. You don't have any discipline. And leadership is also something that needs to be addressed as well. Not everybody's a leader, not an effective leader, But anyway, that's how I got into, should I go into that? I don't have enough time to go into it. So I'll shoot another video as far as that goes, because I have clients coming in. But that's how I got into personal training, boxing, owning my own gym, and my own Capoeira school. That's another journey. I've been through a few things, and I'm still a music producer. I've not given up on my music producer dreams. I've had some solid placements. So everything that I do professionally is a passion of mine. I'll get into it a little bit. So in order for you guys to do things that you're passionate about, one, you got to break hearts early. If I were to go back and do it all over again, the only thing that I would change was to break hearts early. which means I would have broke my parents' hearts early. I would have went to Central, changed my major, went on, and they wouldn't have found out that I majored in music until they came down to my graduation. You have to unequivocally, that's not the word for it, you just have to be you. You just got to be you, and whoever attracts themselves to you, cool. Whoever separates themselves from you, also cool. Because your day ones are definitely going to separate from you. People who actually, or who you think actually owe you support, and people who you want to support you are not going to support you. They're going to go. And you know what? They have to go in order for you to grow. You have to drop the dead weight. You have to just be you. You've got to do what's burning in here. Do you have to put business around it to make sure that it monetizes? Absolutely. But you have to do what's in here. If not, you're going to be just like those individuals who I saw retire from their job and die a week or two later. And when I say I saw multiple, like a nice amount of people do that, a nice amount of people do that. They will retire, die, because they have no outside life. Their creativity has been beat out of them. They've been told, hey, you've got to be realistic, and you've got to fit within this bubble, and you've got to fit within this confine to make a living. Listen, that's your ending right there. That's going to be your ending right there. That's going to be the end of your story. You retire and you die if you kill your creativity. You have to make sure you follow your passion, follow your creative passion, and take the hits that come along with it. Build a business plan around it. And I'm not talking like a physical, business plan with paper, pen and paper, whatever the case may be. But you have ways of getting monetized with the phone and, content and things of that nature, and putting your art out there. Everything is just as accessible to you now as it was only limited to a few individuals back when I was coming up. That gateway to entry and that barrier to entry was a lot larger and a lot bigger than just pushing the button on the phone right now and spreading it to the world. The playing field's even. So you got to be able to dig and, deal with some things emotionally and deal with some things that'll actually push your limits in order to get there. But it's possible. I'm saying that to say that it's possible, people. You've got to make sure that you sustain your creativity. Do not let yourself go. Do not let yourself go. Oh, I'll take that as a sign. My light just died. So, I don't know. That one dies a little faster than that one. That one died on the last one too. So, listen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll be shooting content on boxing, capoeira, and hybrid this week. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and I look forward to catching you in the next video.